teacher training is effective because it allows us the opportunity to build relationships, and it helps us to be able to build on previous knowledge that the participants have.
Because it gives more time for ideas to sink in and for the participants to start to understand how they can work that idea into their teaching context.
You can follow up on what was previously learned and adapt.
As a mentor, it illustrates to your teachers that professional development is really an ongoing process, not a one-time thing, and it encourages them to think outside of that lesson-to-lesson mindset.
It's more effective because it gives us an opportunity to allow the teachers to bring their own knowledge to the training. We're all in this together and we're all experts in our own context.
Because participants have a chance to not only hear about your ideas, but to learn from each other.
Participants can get different perspectives on common obstacles.
More voices in the room generate better ideas.
Teaching isn't a solitary endeavor. We're all in this together. As a trainer in Uzbekistan, I was part of a year-long endeavor where our teachers started off with 120 hours of course study time and then did a 20-hour practicum, and that's where I came in. So we do observations of their practicum to see if they could use the techniques that they had studied on their online course. So first, we'd have pre-observation meetings where we'd decide on some specific things that I would be looking at so that they would understand that I wasn't trying to see every single thing in their lesson. We decided together what to do. Then I'd observe their lesson, take some notes using a protocol I had. And finally, after the observation, we'd have a post-observation meeting where we talk about those specific things that they had selected.
A major part of my fellowship in Kazakhstan was working with Access teachers throughout the country. A lot of these teachers were newer teachers, and so a major part of what I was doing was offering observation of their lessons and then also feedback. The way this would happen is I would come into a classroom, often virtually, and I would offer a short lesson, generally about 30 minutes, to get to know the students better and to make the teachers feel more comfortable. Then I would watch one of their classes, and I would not speak or really participate in their class at that time. I would schedule a feedback session later with that teacher so that we could talk about the positives of what they were doing, as well as focusing on some suggestions for improvement. And then I had the great advantage of being able to come back and watch future sessions so that I could see how things were developing over time.
I think it's important to make the reasons you're observing the teacher clear to that teacher before you observe their lesson. So I tell teachers that I'm not there to critique their teaching. I'm there to help them develop what they're good at and provide them resources.
One project that I did with trainers at the Teachers College that I worked at was just going into their classrooms and doing some mini modules with their teachers in training. And that developed into really beautiful mentoring and collaborative relationships. We were able to talk about our students, the teachers that we were training, methods, and a lot of different things that really, I think we all grew in the process of those relationships.
There were two teachers that I identified very easily as being strong leaders. One teacher particularly, she was a young new teacher, but she clearly had leadership ambitions and a very charismatic personality. And I spent a lot of my time mentoring those two teachers. Another one was a department supervisor. So the impact of the teacher training is so much more when you can mentor someone who will become a teacher leader, because they will in turn eventually impact the teachers that they're supervising.
So in Uzbekistan, a lot of my teachers learned some really new student-centered activities in their certificate course, but they didn't really have a chance to practice those. So a lot of times when I'd have a chance to co-teach with a teacher, I would use those specific activities that I knew they learned in my lessons. This helped them see how it would be applied. And a lot of times they had that kind of moment. It was an aha moment. They thought, oh, that's how you're supposed to do it. And I heard that a lot. So I think that modeling effective practices when co-teaching is an excellent way to collaborate with your peers and show them the way, and then let them go from there.
A major part of my work in Kazakhstan was working with the professional learning network that the Access teachers in the country had. And so we had regular communication through SMS services, specifically WhatsApp and Telegram, which are very popular in the region. We also had a social media group on Facebook where we could share highlights and great lesson plans that were happening in these Access programs throughout the country. This was a great opportunity for me to do a little bit of observation, kind of informally, on how things were going.
I did a series of trainings around the country that was to reconnect teachers that had previously been in training together. And part of what I did was collect their information and start a Facebook group. So we started a private Facebook group set up with training modules. So teachers that had been in their regional WhatsApp groups now were all reconnected through this Facebook group. We used it for them to practice English, to distribute new materials, and to just give them a chance to upload materials for each other that they could use and support.
When I was a fellow, I had the chance to work with some new teachers just before they were beginning student teaching. And they were going to be going to rural areas alone, partnered with a senior teacher. And so I wanted to give them a chance to interact with each other, even in these rural areas. So I developed a really simple web application, kind of like Google Classroom, that would offer them a personal professional learning network where they could interact with each other if they had questions, or to share ideas, or to troubleshoot as they came up with issues in their student teaching experience.
After completing a Reload teacher training program, Camp Epic, we created a map showing where all of the alumni live so that they can continue to connect and collaborate after the program. And the way it works is, so for example, let's say we just go to East Java, Surabaya. So you can imagine someone will go back after the program and they want to connect and collaborate with other alumni. They would just find these different pins. You can click on it, and the only information we put was their email so that they could just contact each other. I think PLNs can only be successful if they are run by local teachers. Fellows come and go, so we need local teachers to be the driving force behind the network.
A highlight of my fellowship was organizing the first National English Language Teachers Conference in Kosovo. I collaborated with a few local teachers to organize it, and we had about 200 teachers from around the country attend. And this was an excellent opportunity to actually start a new teachers association we called KetNet, and it's still going on 10 years later.
When I was working on a project in Kazakhstan, I created a WhatsApp PLN. And I found for the success of that WhatsApp PLN, it was really important to post regularly. And not only post about academic things, post about personal things, about my life, and even post when I wasn't feeling well and when I had a bad day, because it was through exposing my vulnerabilities and allowing the other participants space to do that, that we became closer to each other and could work on a shared goal together.